Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back for day 2 of We Rise Purified Power. So I'll speak just briefly about the methodology. We are sort of sneaking into a method that will become increasingly, I don't want to say complicated, but somewhat involved. And I don't want to overwhelm with too much technique all at once, because then we really sort of miss the essence of it. And the magic of this technique is the subtlety of it, because we're tuning into something that is quite subtle. So rather than coming at it with too much self-effort, we're going to ease in with a lot of methodology that we're already pretty familiar with to set the stage and to awaken our pranic body so that we're prepared to move into something that's a tiny bit more like rubbing your belly and patting your head as the weeks progress. I think that's all that needs to be said about the methodology. We will open by chanting the Gayatri Mantra, the Mahamrityunjaya Mantra, and the Vishvadeva 3 times each, and then we will begin. So go ahead and adjust your seat in any way that you wish to. When you're ready, let the eyes close. Give yourself 3 or 4 full-bodied breaths, and then invite the breath to grow effortless. Preparing for our mantra recitation. We'll begin with Om 3 times. Om Bhurrbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurrbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurrbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritat. anupatraha kratavo yantu vishvato taptaso aparitasa utpitaha devano yata saramit vrede asanna prayavo rakshitaro dive dive. Om anupatraha kratavo yantu vishvato taptaso aparitasa utpitaha devano yata saramit vrede asanna prayavo rakshitaro dive dive. Om anupatraha kratavo yantu vishvato taptaso aparitasa utpitaha devano yata saramit vrede asanna prayavo rakshitaro dive dive. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And now our Sankalpa. I resolve to meditate. May this meditation practice infuse my mind with clarity and stability, and my heart with purity, love, and compassion. May the forces of creation, the sages of the tradition, and the enlightened masters, who always seek out those stranded on the path, witness my resolution and shower their blessings for a successful meditation. And feel free to make any little adjustments to your posture. Creating an even greater experience of steadiness and ease in body, breath, and mind. Establishing diaphragmatic breath. If you'd like, you can wrap the arms low across the belly, crossing them at the forearms. Palms will face inward, holding on to the lowest ribs and that soft, squishy space between the rib cage and the pelvis. Let the weight of the forearms and the elbows rest heavy against the belly as a form of resistance for the breath. And for the next minute or so, begin to develop a smooth, steady, balanced rhythm. Maintaining integrity in the spine. With each exhale, feel a little bit more of the gripping or the holding in the body, breath, and mind slipping away. Replaced by a softness, a spaciousness, and an ease. And as we begin to loosen our grip on that internal holding, be compassionately present to whatever might arise, welcoming it rather than pushing it away. And pay special attention to the muscles in and around the face and neck and shoulders. Soften where you can. 2 or 3 more breaths with the arms crossed, and then release. Releasing the arms if you haven't already, and just enjoy this new freedom and ease in the breath. Draw awareness to the interior of the nostrils and experience the breath in this space. Maintaining effortless diaphragmatic breath. Continually checking in with the belly, softening and inviting space. Draw awareness now to Agya Chakra. Heighten sensitivity to the presence of prana. Perhaps simply by bringing awareness to Agya Chakra, there is an immediate sense of gathering, collecting, coalescing. And perhaps not. Both are good. Prepare for Nadi Shodhanam, creating Vishnu Mudra with the dominant hand. Enjoy another breath or two through both nostrils as evenly as possible, flowing between that space just beyond the opening of the nostrils and Agya Chakra. One more inhale through both nostrils. Then exhale through the right. Inhale left. Exhale right. In left. Exhale right. Now inhale right. Out left. In right. Out left. In right. Out left. Inhale left. Out right. In left. Out right. In left. Out right. Rest the hand, returning to effortless breath, flowing through both nostrils evenly. Maintain that smooth, steady quality of the breath. Flowing in a continuous, unbroken stream. Vishnu Mudra once again. Inhale both nostrils. Exhale left. In right. Out left. In right. Out left. Inhale left. Out right. In left. Out right. In left. Out right. Inhale right. Out left. In right. Out left. In right. Out left. Release the hand. Effortless breath. Flowing smoothly, continuously through both nostrils evenly. Notice where tension from effort has crept back into the body, the breath, or the mind, and let it go. Soften any rough or jagged edges. And once again, gather awareness at Agya Chakra. Enjoy a few breaths here. Inviting a union of prana and awareness. Experiencing one another. And enjoy this experience of prana and awareness together throughout the body, space by space. Special attention at some spaces as we arrive there. Beginning at the forehead center, enjoy a breath. Eyebrow center. Eyes. Nostrils. Throat center. Shoulders. Upper arms. Elbows. Wrists. Palms. Fingertips. 2 breaths. Effortless diaphragmatic breaths. Palms. Wrists. Elbows. upper arms, shoulders, throat center. Linger for a few breaths here. Tune in to the unique quality present at the throat center. Heart center, lingering for a few breaths. One breath at the base of the sternum. A few breaths at the navel center. Release all unnecessary tension in the belly. A few breaths at the pelvic center. And a few breaths at the perineum. As we begin to make our way back up, we'll continue to spend a little more time at each of the spinal chakras, introducing their Sanskrit names. I'll say them aloud. Repeat them softly, internally, as though tasting, savoring the sound and the feel. At the perineum, Muladhara, Muladhara, Muladhara. Ascending to pelvic center. Svadhisthana. 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 Simply exploring without any expectations or demands. Ascending to the navel center. Manipura. 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 Ascending for one breath at the base of the sternum. And descending once again to the heart center. Anahata. 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 Ascending to the throat center. Visuddha. 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 One breath in the nostrils. One breath in the eyes. Eyebrow center. forehead center, Agya chakra. A few breaths here. Agya, 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 ascend once again to Sahasrara, the crown. Sahasrara, Sahasrara, Sahasrara. As we prepare for Samikarana, heighten sensitivity once again to each of these sacred spaces between Sahasrara Chakra and Muladhara, and invite awareness to flow through them with specificity, an unbroken stream of breath and awareness. And also highly attuned to each of these spaces as awareness and breath, prana, pass through. Another inhale at Sahasrara Chakra. And with exhale, begin to descend. Take your time, let prana be the guide. Once you reach Muladhara without pause, inhale and ascend. Without pause, exhale, descend. Unbroken stream of prana, breath, awareness. At your own pace, heeding the guidance of pranic intelligence. 2 or 3 more breaths in this way. And after those 2 or 3 more breaths, with the following exhale, descend from Sahasrara home to Agya Chakra. When awareness reaches Agya Chakra, establish a welcoming, inclusive, and integrative quality to awareness in this space. All of the elements, all of the qualities of your existence commingle. And eventually dissolve into one another for a united experience of self. Few more breaths. Once again, reaffirming this quality of inclusivity and integration of all of the various elements and aspects of being. Gradually begin to deepen the breath. Inviting the diaphragm to become more involved and also creating a gentle expansion through the ribs. Revitalizing body and mind and beginning to externalize awareness. If it feels natural to you, bring the hands together at the heart, pressing the palms, and perhaps bowing the head. And once again, inviting the experience of union. A union that relies upon inclusion rather than exclusion. And we'll make our offering here. Due to the current quality of the building blocks of my body, senses, and mind, or due to habits or strong impressions from the past, I may not have attended my meditation in as deep and pristine a manner as my inner being intended. And yet I pray to the forces governing both my inner and outer worlds to accept the fruits of my practice as a pure and unblemished offering. Rub the palms together if you'd like. And then when you're ready, place the palms anywhere you are inclined, maybe over the eyes for another breath or two. Let the eyes flutter open and gradually come back to the outside world. And go ahead and reach for your journals. And while it's fresh in your mind, to the best of your ability, write down the names of those 7 chakras, starting at the perineum, just to the best of your ability. You won't be graded. And when you're finished with that little task, define enemy. How do you define enemy? Based on that definition, who are your enemies? And it can be specific people, or it could be people who dot, dot, dot. It could be organizations. So again, tapping in with the reality of our humanity, which can be difficult to do when we come out of meditation. But do your best. Who does your mind identify as enemy? How does your body, pranic body, mind react to the presence or influence or impact of the enemy? How do you react to the influence or impact of the enemy? In regard to the enemy, what is your strongest desire or wish? Chi chi. Okay, and now let's consider the enemies within. What parts of yourself are you in conflict with? What parts of yourself, what urges or inclinations or past choices are your enemy? Where do you harbor animosity internally? How does your body, your pranic body, and your mind react to this internal enemy? And are there any similarities or correlations between the parts of yourself that you have labeled enemy and those you perceive to be enemies in the external world? Are there any similarities or correlations between your inner enemies and your enemies in the external world? Juju does not take no for an answer. I love it. You are the definition of precocious. Okay, let's talk. First, I'm going to holler down to Jesse. Have a good day, baby.
I will. I'm waiting on Adrian.
Okay, I love you.
I love you too.
All right. Who are your enemies? Not Juji. So I'll just remind us so that we feel a little bit better about ourselves for feeling like we have enemies, that these kleshas, the 5 afflictions that afflict every single human being, include devesha. Devesha is number 4 of the 5. Devesha is our addiction to having an enemy. And it's a big part of our creation of self-identity. One of the ways that we can define who we are is by designating who we are against. So this is a very normal part of our humanity, something to explore rather than condemn. So with that being said, who's got enemies? You know, not that I would be proud to identify, but there are absolutely people groups, ideologies, organizations that I am opposed to. I stand in opposition to. So maybe before we start to talk specific enemies, how would you define enemy? And I'll pop the definition that came up for me into the chat. And then you can either say yours aloud or write yours in the chat as well. So for those of you watching the recording, I defined enemy as someone or a group of someones who act in opposition to my cherished ideals and beliefs. And that includes parts of myself that act in opposition to who I want to be. Steph.
I defined it as something or someone that you have a hostile attitude towards that appears to be a threat in some way and that needs to be met with resistance or possibly even retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically, that for me would be people who are working to take away my rights, my freedom, or my bodily autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would imagine that extends to people or organizations who are a threat to anyone, not just you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Pamela?
I wrote someone who suppress other people. Do you say suppress? Yeah.
Or
Uh,
suppress or oppress.
yeah. Um, and well, persons or groups and all kind of abusive behavior in any form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People who I wrote it down in German, maybe Elena or Steph can help me. Menschen, die über Leichen gehen, with you know, how's the word in English? I don't know. We tell people who
But basically willing to kill. I mean, that's the idea
that's
of
the
like
yeah
stepping over dead bodies is the literal German
yeah
Wow,
way
that's
to say it.
very visceral imagery, stepping over dead bodies, and probably
just for your own will, just for
mm,
your
out of
own
selfishness or
success.
greed, like out of selfishness or greed, being willing to.
Yeah, just do it, anything that's yeah
Mm-hmm,
leads to that.
mm-hmm.
Yes, that's my definition of enemy.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to see that word written down because it sounds like not just a mouthful, but an eyeful. Will you say it again?
The
The
über
word,
Leichen,
yeah, say it again.
über Leichen gehen.
Übel, Leichen,
Über,
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 Übel,
über
okay,
Leichen
Leichen
gehen.
gehen. Okay,
Now,
that's
what was your first expression you learned in a foreign language?
stepping over
I
dead.
learned how to say stepping over dead bodies.
I was just gonna say this is like gonna come in really handy
Yeah. Yeah.
with your German speaking.
It's that and Guten Vormittag. So it's very utilitarian German at this point in time.
You're off to an excellent start.
Thank you. Thank you. I think so too. I'm very proud of myself. Anyone else have a definition of enemy? Anything you would like to add? So this enemy thing really taps into our tribal mentality as well. And often identifying who the enemy is gives you something to bond with other human beings over. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and creates a sense of communal identity. And it really creates that us versus them mentality, which lends a false sense of power and unity. It's incredibly powerful. Often we know much more about what we stand against than what we stand for. Pamela.
That is not always bad. You know, this power of movements against something can change things. And we saw it in the past. And I think it's very important that people come together and create power to change this functioning system.
Yep, I agree. When can it become a danger to our spirituality? Or not a danger, an obstacle. I'll say an obstacle. Claire, go ahead, and then Pamela, I'll come back to you.
I just kind of wanted to use an example from my life, really, because I feel like a terrible human, but there is one human who I identify as an enemy in my life, who is someone who is just so difficult to work with. There's someone in my workplace, and they're just not a nice person. I feel bad saying that, but they really just. And then now I'm creating my own stories. They're me, blah blah blah. But they're just horrible and very difficult to work with. But when I notice at work, because because they're difficult for everyone, there becomes this kind of like, there's just little pockets of discussion, or like, oh, how's she today, blah 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 blah, and then kind of like feeding into what you're saying about when it can be like not helpful, is it becomes like this whole thing that's constantly being reinforced by everybody else. It's creating an us and them. It's reinforcing my sense of ego and what I'm owed. They're blocking what I'm owed as a human, and it comes up on a daily basis, and it's horrible.
That speaks to what we talked about yesterday, Claire. When someone seems to be more successful than we are, and if they're taking something that you feel owed, that's a direct example of that. And that is what creates this sense of animosity. Even
She's not more successful than me, though.
But does she
I'm
act
joking.
like she owns the place?
Yeah.
And you would probably like to feel more comfortable in your work environment.
That's what I feel like I'm owed, to feel comfortable, to not feel threatened in my work environment every day, emotionally threatened.
And does it seem like she feels perfectly comfortable to behave in whatever way she wishes?
Yes.
There you have it. She is more successful than you are in that regard.
It dominating.
Yeah, and that's where the animosity comes in. And we don't usually want to admit that someone is more successful than we are. That's language that our mind is like, no.
I don't want to dominate. I don't want to be like her. But
No,
yeah, I do hear what you're saying. But
yeah,
I'm like,
it's
sorry,
not
this
that
is,
you
I
want to
don't want to
dominate.
have a counseling.
And then internally, for example, if you were to start mulling over an exchange, particularly heated exchange or frustrating engagement with her, right before you started to meditate, how would your meditation go?
Oh, awful. So distracted. I was thinking when you were asking about how does your body mind react, I was thinking like, okay, when I've had conversations with her where she's been not so nice, and I just like, yeah, there's like anxiety and emotion, but like the main thing is just like I lose all discernment. I can't. I'm not in control anymore. And she's like the biggest hurt. She's like, if there's one thing that I could remove from my, it would be this human. But at the same time, she's kind of my best teacher, and I hate her for that. So hard.
Mm-hmm. Don't worry, we will be working with antidotes. Right now, we're
Thank
just
you.
analyzing the icky bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to
Yeah.
go and work with her this morning.
Yeah. And even just that sense of dread of having to deal with it, your freedom and your fulfillment are compromised because of this enemy association, this feeling of animosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that. Pamela, how is our spirituality compromised, our pursuit of spiritual evolution compromised by having an enemy, and specifically that quality of animosity directed towards our enemy?
I just wanted to say if you let the animosity take over, and you lose clear seeing and take it too much personal, and get triggered by it, and let anger lead. Well, no, I think anger is an important feeling. You wouldn't be in this movement and in this active power. But yeah, animosity and losing calm,
Mm-hmm.
inner calm, like um, losing the goal, the towards your want to fight, for what you want to fight.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that could be an obstacle.
Yeah. Often when we let the anxiety or the animosity can lead to anxiety. So I keep on like bringing anxiety into it because that's more my experience. When we feed the animosity, that actually starts to take up all of our Shakti. And that Shakti could be used to actually address the problem. But instead, we satisfy ourselves by just being angry. I'm so angry. I'm so angry. I'm so angry. And we tire ourselves out with the anger. And we don't have the energy available anymore to actually be part of the solution. We just mull over the problem.
Maybe another obstacle could also be that you like feel this great power and identify with this power, and all the adrenaline, and like um it makes you feel powerful. That's a great thing, but you can lose yourself um in this power, and you feel yourself like you're over all the other people. So
Yep.
yeah, I think there are many obstacles coming along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to highlight something. You just said this animosity feels like it gives you power over other people. Isn't that also your definition of your enemy? So it turns you into an expression of your own definition of enemy. That's an obstacle. Mm-hmm. Similarly, like some of my cherished ideals and beliefs are peace, compassion, love, patience, inclusivity. When I let my anger and animosity get the better of me, I am now someone acting in opposition to my own cherished ideals and beliefs. I've now actually given my power away to the person or the people group that I experience animosity toward. I've now given them the power to turn me into someone that I don't want to be.
You see it often on demonstrations. We talked about that earlier in a round of Re-Rise, but there's also a fine line. It can be a demonstration which is very peaceful and like sense of unity and you know and then there are demonstrations where it's just getting stupid because it's more destructive than something else.
It causes us to lose sight of the end goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get just caught up in the experience of the animosity. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why it is considered one of the four most potent mental contaminants. It is very powerful and it will claim power over us. We feel as though it is empowering us, but it actually overpowers our own conscience and who we wish to be. Animosity. Anger does not need to develop into animosity. Anger, if just felt, experienced, and allowed to deliver information and then released, can be clarifying. But when we choose to hold on to that anger, if our sense of empowerment is reliant upon anger, then we're going to continue to hook back into the thing that made us angry. And that vritti of anger will develop into animosity because it'll need something to hold on to externally. And that's when we identify an enemy. And not just an ideal. We start to project onto actual human beings. You are my enemy. Which is an obstacle. Let's switch the conversation subtly. What parts of your self do you regard as enemy? This is a lot more subtle and often much more difficult to see. So go back to your definition of enemy. Steph, I'll come to you and see if there are aspects of your own personality or your past that meet your definition of an enemy. Steph, go ahead.
The first thing that came to mind as my internal enemy is like the part of me that is anxious and scared because it threatens my sense of control, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time, I just want to suppress it or get rid of it and want it to go away.
Mm-hmm. And how is that working out for you?
Awesome. No, not at all. It isn't. It doesn't really help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like trying to suppress anxiety is like putting a lid on a pot that's already about to bubble over.
Yeah. I've gotten so much better over the last 10 years, but it's still there and it's still maybe not boiling and bubbling, but simmering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Keep that in mind. We love you, Claire. We will be happy to be in your pocket. Pocket-sized community. Keep that in mind when we start to think about the animosity or the antidote to animosity. Anyone else have inner enemies? Pamela?
Not surprising, you know me now. Um, my exhaustion, my unproductivity, my Thomas part. Yeah. And I know that I don't want to talk about how important they are. I know they are important. I have to welcome them, but yeah, they are still my enemy. I feel very helpless against them when they take over. Um, it's probably same like Steph. I lose control. I feel like I don't have control anymore, and they just take over. Um, yeah.
Here's something interesting. When you were talking about your definition of enemy, I was actually thinking about aspects of the way that you engaged with life before you got sick. That just like go, go, go. I'm going to do it no matter what. This sort of dominant quality that maybe suppressed or oppressed your need for rest, your desire for softness or tenderness or intimacy or whatever it might be. That's what came to mind for me when you were giving your definition of enemy. So it's interesting that that part of you may still be quite active if you're viewing the part of you that needs rest as enemy. Just something to be curious about, I think.
I know these parts are still dominant. And it's not an excuse, but I think it's just um yeah, samskaras and all this, but it's kind of my personality.
So it's just interesting to me that that's how you defined enemy. That the people outside of you that are doing that to others, you have a problem with. But can you see how you were doing it to yourself? And
That's why I said yesterday, remember, what is success?
Mhm.
If I put my health,
Yeah,
if I I can't spell this word, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, my health, if like this is my most important thing, and self-care and all these things. I don't know what I wrote. Yeah. And my meditation practice, this is kind of success because I know how important that is to purify myself.
yeah. So just very subtle nuance. When we start to explore cruelty and compassion, I want to bring this back in because, like, if I were to apply my definition of enemy into that conversation, it sounds like a cherished ideal and belief for you is self care and self awareness. And it, your need for rest, your exhaustion, a lack of productivity does not sound to me, and again, I could be wrong because I'm not in your mind, like the enemy. That almost sounds like a part of you that is suffering that you might still be withholding a little bit of compassion from, as opposed to having animosity toward it. And the animosity may be more subtle toward the part of yourself that was a taskmaster, just a little too much for a little too long, that now that caused the suffering that is now ongoing. So it's very subtle. It's just a slight distinction between animosity and cruelty. And cruelty can be defined as withholding compassion, withholding love, withholding compassion, which is very subtle. But yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's maybe not an enemy, it's maybe just this. I hate losing control. I hate to be helpless. I hate to, be so exhausted and like be a couch potato because I can't, or because I'm in pain, or my body says rest. Yeah. So maybe it's not, yeah, I know there's a lack of compassion for that, for this part.
Do you think there is still a part of you that would define success as active, productive, achieving great things in the external world?
Absolutely. But it's not my own belief. I think it's just a samskara which is not my own, or is a belief that is not my own. Like,
But it's
yeah.
still in there. So we have chosen
Yeah.
beliefs. We've chosen beliefs, things that we're choosing to align ourselves with. And then we have beliefs that are the result of our samskaras and our vasanas.
Yeah. And I think that's just so deep
Mhm.
rooted in myself.
Mhm.
And I know I need probably a lifetime. I also say this in my therapy.
Mhm.
I need a lifetime for this to be aware and conscious.
Yeah.
Because I will not lose these parts.
Yeah. So I would say add to yesterday's journal entry that your shadow definition of success is active, powerful, strong, achieving, producing. So, because it's important to recognize that and to include it. Because if that's what you define as success, that makes a lot more sense as to why you define your exhaustion, the part of you that needs rest, as the enemy. Because it is keeping you from achieving that desire. Because if your genuine definition, like fully adopted definition of success, is your well-being.
Yeah, that's why my therapist say actually my long COVID or my exhaustion is my best friend, because it keeps me away from this false beliefs and this doing which is not me.
Mm-hmm.
Actually.
Yeah. So what I think is going to become important for you is figuring out how to broker a genuine peace between the part of you that wants to be active and productive and the part of you that wants to honor your well-being, and find a way to marry those two peacefully. Because I think choosing one over the other is going to keep you in a state of constant conflict. This is what I mean when I constantly use that word integration, where all of the parts of ourselves are welcome. Yeah, exactly. And just write it down to keep it in the forefront of your consciousness. And with all of these journaling questions, consult both your light and your shadow to get the answers. Because the impurities don't live in your light. The impurities live in our shadows. And Purification is not the annihilation of the shadow. It's the understanding of it, the embracing of it, and the integration of it. It's when we build a border wall and keep it out, excluded, that we have problems. When we can welcome it in and find a way to integrate the information that it has for us, we become more whole and thus more powerful, but in a very purified way. Power through inclusion, not exclusion. Yeah, power of, not power over. Claire, I see you.
Yeah, just a quick note, because I feel you so much, Pamela. So, like, what you're talking about, like the whole idea of wanting to be how you were before, or more physically able, or more productive. And that was Rondo. And I really found it helpful, and you might not, but just like the understanding the concept of ableism in society, where people are considered whole or not, or something to be fixed, or like the whole idea that if you have something, that a condition that makes you like less of worth because you can't produce as much in society, or you can't do as much as other, like that makes someone less than in some way. And just understanding the concept of the fact that, well, we're all different, and we're all going to have different abilities at different points in our lives, and our productivity and what we can do in a physical sense isn't what our worth is made of. Really helped me kind of coming to terms with the fact that I can't do what I used to be able to do. Sometimes I just have to sleep. Sometimes I come home and I'm exhausted, and other days I feel a bit better, but I can't, my default is tiredness. but kind of understanding that society has set us up to fail. Society has set the standard that we should all be, to be whole, we must all be perfect little specimens of humanity. And what makes us more interesting is the ways in which we're not, in my opinion. So whether that's helpful or not, but it's something that's helped me for sure.
And also shifting your definition of perfect.
What even is that?
Yeah, does perfection need to include productivity? Or could it simply be presence? From the yogic tradition, perfection, maximizing our humanity, is being fully established in freedom and fulfillment. It doesn't mention productivity or achievement.
And I kind of feel like we're all going to age, right? We're all going to be able to, we're all going to be physically less able to do things. So sometimes I'm like, okay, well, this is just a chance for me to get to grips with this. I'm getting a head start on of like the working with the loss of things, but you don't need to be productive.
And it's also productive in very different ways. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes quality over quantity. Yeah.
But it's difficult, just another note, when, productivity also feels good. It's not, it's like something I feel a human being want to be productive and want to be active and want to be alive and want to be, so that's why it's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a human desire. It's, for me, it's a
Yeah.
normal desire to,
want to contribute. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dharma. So it's not completely stepping away from activity or productivity, but adjusting our relationship with it. Yeah.
Just finding a new balance.
Yeah. 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 New ways to feel as though you are living a life of significance and contribution that doesn't necessarily need to lead to exhaustion. Or when it does, then you rest, but nobody is the enemy. Today I'm active. Today I rest. Today I do a little bit of both. And just very fluid, without any of the inner conflict or drama. Today I'm very external. Today I'm very internal. Cool. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts on this inner animosity thing in particular? I'll just add, for myself, for a very long time, the part of me that wanted to break all of the rules, drink too much tequila, dance on the tables, sleep through her alarm, that part of me, flirt up a storm, whatever it happened to be, that part of me for a very long time was the enemy. That was the enemy that I strived to suppress and oppress and keep locked in a cage with very thick bars and multiple padlocks and just pretend she didn't exist. That's thanks in large part to my Judeo-Christian upbringing. And also because I saw the wildness of my mom leading to divorce, which then led to what fractured my trust in reality. So anything within me that even hinted at that was not to be entertained. So I ended up living in a box about this big, and anything that didn't fit into that box was the enemy and needed to be oppressed, denied, or if possible, annihilated, killed. And it was not until that part of me basically broke out of all of the prison cells, the various parts of me that broke out when I was living in New York in particular, and just essentially had their way with me, that I was able to finally start this process of trying to understand these aspects of myself instead of demonizing them, dehumanizing them, criminalizing them, making them the enemy. I tried to understand them. And eventually, I learned to genuinely appreciate them and even really like. I like that there's a part of me that can outdance the vast majority of women that I know on a table in high heels with a margarita in my hand. I think that's cool. I like her. I like her. She's fun.
I want to see her. I don't know this part of you.
That's who Jesse met originally. And then he was like, who's this boring girl? No, he likes her too. Yeah, she exists. And I like that she exists. I like that she is a thread in the tapestry of who I am. I also like that I have this activism, this heart of activism, and this, I will stand up for what I believe in. And I like that toughness in me. I like that mama bear quality. There are so many different aspects of myself that were not accepted, not encouraged, and that I participated in rejecting and oppressing. And I think as women, we participate actively in our own oppression because we're taught to do so from a very early age. So how can you seek out the parts of yourself that you have been oppressing and at least loosen the chains and maybe start to nourish them a little bit and see what wisdom they have for you, and start to try to understand these parts of yourself and see if you can maybe even learn to appreciate, make peace with, and ultimately reintegrate all of the different parts of your being so that you have no enemies within, no enemies within, no inner animosity, all love, all friendliness, all compassion, no judgment. And from the perspective of yogic meditation, that is a necessity if you wish to reach the highest goal of yoga. It is a necessity. It cannot be bypassed. You must be completely at peace with yourself in order to experience the highest stage of samadhi. So that's fun. Steph, I saw your hand. Do you still have something you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was just thinking all the parts of yourself that you mentioned, like the dancing Natalie or the mama bear or even the activism part. Those are all things that are just profoundly positive and that, at least from my external perspective, seem easier to get along with than that anxious or scared wreck,
Hmm.
you know?
I guess a question could be, where's that anxiety coming from? Is there a part of you that anxiety is actually oppressing?
I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Good conversation. You're doing great. Another day today of just sitting with the questions rather than rushing to administer the antidote. Just become increasingly curious about the presence of the contaminant and the parts of you that you deem as enemy are not the contaminant. It's the parts of you that deem them enemy that we want to work with. Does that make sense? It's the animosity that is the contaminant, not what the animosity is directed toward. Yeah. And we will talk more about none of this clearing of the contaminants is meant to make us passive pushovers. Okay? This is purified power, not purified pushover. So it's not about acknowledging that there's a lot of shitty stuff happening in the world and resolving to do nothing about it. It's making sure that we maintain a pure inner environment so that if we choose to engage in some form of making the world a better place, whether that's within your own home, neighborhood, community, or globally, that you're doing so without inflicting more harm, which is what will happen if we don't keep these contaminants in check. If we don't purify ourselves of those contaminants, even the best intention will have a harmful impact. And we want to avoid that. We want to be able to act in the world without inflicting harm or creating more negative karma for ourselves. Live in the world without getting lost in it. And this work is key to being able to do that. Okay? Empowered, not pushover. Yay! Steph.
I just wanted to say I'm really happy we're back in this setting. I've missed you guys.
Yeah, I've missed you as well. And at some point in the near future, we'll just sit and have a little powwow so I can share with you about my experiences in India as well. Panditji warned us that we would not go home the same person that we were when we arrived. And it's true. In a good way. So I'm eager to share little bits that I can. But I have Nandi here to make sure that I don't share too much too soon. And I'll tell you that story too. This is my little Khajuraho Nandi, which is Shiva's companion. She can be kind of bossy, but I like her. All right. I love you all. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you soon.